me, Mario. Hello.
Preston can't play.
Hey there, everyone. It's back. It's back. It's me. It's DDP. Yeah. It's just me. Got some Preston Black solo mission. Solo. You can't hear him. In the last episode, I was sort of reminiscing about my my fantasies of being a public, personality, be it on radio or in a musician capacity. I didn't really understand what that stuff was. And the reason that I started talking about that was because my birthday is this week. Well, by the time this episode goes up, it will have passed already, but in real time, my birthday is this week, and I'm turning 35, and sort of musing on what I wanted from my life and where it's gone. Not to be like a downer or anything like that. I'm not trying to be like, oh, my life hasn't turned out the way I thought it would be. I feel like everybody has that, man. Like, whose life is what they thought it would be when they were 6, We don't even understand what that means when we're 6. And so many people that I know a few people who I think are doing what they dreamt of doing when they were very young. But I know many people who aren't, who are doing vastly different things than what they thought they wanted to do with their lives when they were young. And they're very happy, and it's not a settled thing, it's not defeated, it's nothing like that. It's just, sometimes we know what we want when we're young, and we go for it, and it works out, or it's something that we're passionate about, and we stick with it, and it makes us happy. And sometimes sometimes when we're young, we think we have that figured out, and we make an attempt at it, and we realize it's really not satisfying. I have a friend who devoted a lot of time and effort and money into investing into an acting career. Went to a very expensive, very prestigious acting school in New York, and did really well, and then, got out into the world and realized that the grind just wasn't for them, and it wasn't a satisfying lifestyle. And now they're on I think almost a whim, decided to start baking, and now they're baking at they're a pastry chef at this very high profile restaurant in Times Square. This is where I want it to be, and they're very happy and doing great things, and have found something that drives them and makes them happy in their life. And it's not what they thought that it would be when they were when they were very young. They had this path that they had in their mind, and it just ended up not panning out into something that was satisfying ultimately. And that's too bad when that happens, but it's great to find something after that. I think it's no matter if you grow up wanting something for yourself or if you find it later in life, if you do find that thing that really that you're really passionate about and that makes you satisfied and happy, that's awesome. And I've sort of struggled with that, I feel like, for a long time, because I feel like my mind hasn't really been able to settle on what it really wanted. And again, I'm not trying to bring anything down or throw a pity party or anything like that. I'm just being honest about how I feel. Damn it. I feel like I could never quite settle on what that one thing was. I've always been someone who is involved in multiple things, and I feel like I've almost developed into like a jack of all trades and a master of none. You know, like I do all this stuff, and not all of it is stuff that I would say that I do super well. The one thing, interestingly enough, that I am the most confident in is my performing, my singing, and I sort of, when I was a kid, I imagined myself as this rock star frontman, you know, for you know, playing these huge shows, even though I really had no basis for what that meant when I was a kid. And that's like the one thing that I've sort of, interestingly, invested the least amount of effort into. Now, I've been in several bands all over the place. I've lived in 3 corners of this country, and I've had a band in each one of them. And I'm in a band right now, and we're called Subject to Fits, and if you want to check us out, you should do that. You can find us on YouTube. I guess I'll put up a link. There's not really much there, but you know, we're still fairly new. Facebook.com/subject to fits. You know, all the usual stuff. Instagram, subject number 2 fits. Metal Mario. Where do you want to be? I can't go that way. I guess I'll try. Well, there's a Metal Mario. Oh, I think it's just follow this path with Metal Mario. Okay. But I've like, it's like I've always like strayed away from that for some reason, and I feel like it's sort of held me back. I mean, I don't have any delusion that like I was like preordained to be some famous rock star. You know, no one is, and a lot of that success comes down to luck, even more so than talent or drive in some cases. Is that what I wanted? Yeah, baby. Spider holes. Whoop! Fuck. But it's just interesting because, you know, when I was in high school, I joined the like high school band, the like marching, the like concert and marching band, jazz band, all that stuff, and I really was trying to immerse myself in music. And at the same time, I was playing in my parents' cover band. I was like 16, 17, 18. I think I quit when I was 19 or so. Because I was in college and I was like, I don't want to like ride around with my parents. And I think the people that were like reliably coming to those shows had gotten to an age where they weren't coming out all the time and like, you know, making a night of it. And so the shows started, for my age, it was 19 or 18, started to get a little bit unsatisfying. A little underwhelming, so I was like, man, I gotta kind of focus on my own thing, and that's when I started my first band, original band. Anyway, but I never like, I don't know, there were kids in my school who had bands, high school bands, and they were like recognized, and because the band that I was in with my parents, we were playing at like bars, places that under normal circumstances I wouldn't have been allowed to be in. So none of my friends or fellow students could see me. It wasn't something that I could really advertise, and we were playing music that I think was before their time. So it was interesting because I couldn't share what I was doing with my fellow students, and as a result, I wasn't really recognized in my school as being like a musical type. And I feel like in some way that had like an effect on me, on my worth. And I don't know, maybe not, but it feels like it may have been. I remember it was really disappointing at the time, and I would be really excited. I got really excited when some of my friends came of the age where they were, you know, when they became 18 and could go to some bars that doubled as restaurants that would let you stick around if you were 18 as long as you weren't in the bar or something. Or even later when some of my friends became 21. A couple of my friends who were a little bit older than I was turned 21 and they could just come. But it was something that wasn't like super relatable, I guess. And it was just weird. Because all I wanted to do was to be known as a musician. I wanted Preston to be like, oh yeah, he's a musician, like for sure. But there were other kids who, because what they were doing was more visible to the high school crowd, were thought of like that. And some of them, you know, grew out of it, and some of them didn't. Some of them are still musicians to this day, doing really great things. And I feel like that informed my trajectory, like I sort of gave up on it in a way. Is there a coin in here? I can't remember. Yeah. And I didn't invest in that. And I also, in high school, started doing theater. I joined the drama club. And acting has always been something I was really interested in too, but I did music first. And I can't even remember why. I think someone was just like, hey, you should audition for like the high school musical. And I was like, oh, yeah, all right. Like, it wasn't even something that I was super aware of. Or I had like seen, for some reason, I had seen one of the like previous plays that the drama club had done, and I was like, oh, that seems great. I want to try that. And then from there, I sort of decided that, you know, because it was kind of cliquey, and I don't know, like theater types, man. Like I love theater. I have a great love for theater and a great respect for theater, but I think people who aren't a part of the theater community have this opinion or this like image of what a theater person is like. And when I was in high school, the kids who were heavily invested in drama club were like that. They were like overexcitable and like just would shout about everything and just super, super, super dramatic people. And I was like, I was not with that. And you know, that came with like drama, and there was a lot of like, it was, you know, a crowd that was kind of incestuous in some ways, and like it in just a lot of different ways. I was like, man, this is just like not what I'm about. And so I was like, I'm gonna pass on theater, I think. But I really like acting. So I got in my head that I wanted to do film. All the while I'm still in this cover band, right? And so I got it in my head that I wanted to do film. And I didn't want to go to college for theater because that wasn't something that I don't know, I kind of got soured on theater from being in the high school drama club. Because it was such a like high maintenance environment. Although I did love acting. Although I wasn't particularly good at it. I go back and I watch videos of myself in high school plays, and I'm so flat. And I like to think that my acting has improved, but in some ways I'm just not a super expressive person, so sometimes I feel like I'm being way more expressive than I really am. But it was high school, and what are you gonna do? And so, and again, that was something where I wanted to be known as, like, you know, I wanted my fellow students to recognize what I was doing and recognize the talent that I thought I had, and just, it was a fucking drama club, and the other kids didn't care about it because it was this like weird nerdy thing. It was not cool. And so again, there was another environment where I felt like, here's my time to shine and show people what I'm worth, and no one was into it. Very disappointing. Whoop. And so, yeah, so I decided, like, drama's not for me, or theater's not for me, because it's kind of weird and I don't love the environment of it. So film seems a lot more like what I'm about. I'll do film. Where the fuck is the star? And so the thing with me going to college for film is my dad had a horrible anxiety disorder, and I wanted to try to go to college at somewhere really strong. I wanted to go out of state to have a college experience and, you know, go to college and go to a film school. Dad didn't want me to go out of state, so I didn't. And I went to a local state school that had, sorry, I'm just looking for the star that I just uncovered. I went to a local state school that had a film program, and I hated it. So I did that for a few years, trying very, very hard. Oh, there it is. Trying very, very hard to fit this film studies program into my life. And I was always falling asleep during class. I didn't care. All it was writing papers, and I hated it. I wanted to be making film. What I should have done was try to find my way into a tech school where I could learn the equipment and stuff. Now, I had a little bit of experience using like film editing and filming, you know, using broadcast cameras and stuff like that, and I loved it. I should have gone to a tech school, but I didn't know that at the time. I just thought film is film. They're going to teach me how to make film. But it wasn't. It was film studies. It was analysis. And I hated it. And so that was really discouraging. And so late in my college career, I transferred to the other big state school, University of Rhode Island, where I started studying acting. And in the meantime, I and some friends had created this little amazing emergency exit. Well, it sounds like I have to go to the cave. I mean, the maze. So I'll do that. Yeep. And I had already... Oop. So I was like doing that, like most of the time. I had already quit my parents' band at this point, and I was just doing theater with some of my friends. And a couple of those friends were now in college. They were a few years younger than I was. And they were, a couple of them were at this school. So I transferred and I started doing the acting thing, and that was fine. And I had a relatively low opinion at that point of college, because I felt, again, like I had sort of been like burned by the environment that I was in. Oh, I have to do the Metal Mario thing. But doing the acting, it was like, at the very least, it was like an excuse to be meeting people and to practice acting. Well, I did 1 year of that, and then I lost my tuition because none of my financial aid transferred from school to school, partly because I'm sure because of grades, because of it wasn't accepted, or because of how long I had been in school, or whatever the reasons. So I was forced out of college because I couldn't pay for it. And it took me some time to settle up with my just finished paying off my student loans from when I was at my first school this year. And that was the wrong thing to do. And so then I formed another band, and we played around for a while, and it was cool. I had a lot of really great times, and then I got involved with a theater in town and kind of started this residency there, and then the band fell apart, and and then I moved to LA, and it was a band thing, and I just feel like I've been just jumping back and forth between career goals like my entire life, and I've never been in a place where I could like fully invest in any one thing. I've always just like jumped back and forth. I tried to do both. And I'm 35 now, and I don't really have a lot to show for my effort. And now I'm doing this Let's Play, which is a lot of fun. It's not really paying off, but I didn't really expect it to. It's just something fun to do, and like we've talked about on the show before, it really just gives Ton and I an excuse to like hang out. And that's what we sort of consider this to be. Like, it's just a hangout session. Like, you can watch and hang out with us, and it's just Ton and I just like goofing around and playing video games together. I don't really expect it to pay off in any way, but it's just like one more thing that I'm doing that's not a career goal or something. I don't know. Sometimes I think about going back to college, but that seems like a whole thing. I mean, by the time I'm out of college, I'll be almost 40, and I don't know. I do enjoy doing this. And for the past couple of years, I've had my band, and I have been trying to do theater as well. And I think I need to be better at prioritizing my time. And so I am going to stop investing my time, any amount of time, in theater. I haven't really had much to do in theater. I was in a show last year. You may remember me plugging Heather's. The show I was in at the time, last winter/spring. And I think I've gone on like 2 or 3 auditions since then. Part of the problem is that a lot of the good stuff for me to do in theater is outside of the city, and I don't have a car, so it's tough to make that work. Like, there's just a lot of time spent in the bus. You know, it takes me like an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to one of the better theaters outside of the area, outside of the city, on a bus, and I've got to work this full-time job. So it's just not feasible. So I think I'm gonna officially, I've been toying with this. Officially just like temporarily give up on theater. I just don't think it's something that I have the time for. It's very competitive here in Seattle. There's a lot of people in the theater community. There are a lot of theaters who are doing a lot of things, and I just can't stand up next to all these people who have degrees from UW and Cornish and have these very extensive theater backgrounds and all this training, and I just don't. I don't have any dance experience. I've never taken dance classes. I've got very little acting training, and I just can't compete with all that. So what I would like to do is just invest my time into finally invest my time in the one thing that comes completely naturally to me, that I'm really fucking good at, and that's being in a band. And then doing the Let's Play is cool and fun, and I'm not gonna stop doing that anytime soon, but like career-wise, it's gotta be all about the band right now. And if I can get to a point where I have a car, or I can afford, I have more time to spend doing acting training, and other theater training stuff, I'll do that. Maybe I'll look into college again. Maybe I've been talking maybe looking into like an online degree in something like communications or broadcast or music business, something that I'm passionate about, because I'm dicking around with stuff that I'm only half in for. I don't know. I've got so many options, but I can't, at this stage in my life, I can't keep spreading myself around to all these different interests. I have to pick a thing. The Let's Play I can do in my home, gives me an excuse to hang out with my buddy Ton, and that's great. I like doing this, and it's very easy. It's a relatively low time investment. Most of the time is spent just rendering stuff, which I can just do around the house while I'm not doing anything else, or while I'm cleaning or whatever. It's got to be all about the band right now. So theater, I love you very much, and I hope to get back to you someday when I have more time to invest. But I can't just be half in on theater around here. Theater is, you're all in or not. You know what I mean? Like, it can't be the only thing. It has to be the only thing that you're doing. So anyway, sorry that was a long one. I really wanted to get that out, man. There's feelings that I've had very recently, very strong feelings, and I don't know how many people are going to watch this. Realistically, we've had a little bit of a spike in our views again. It kind of ebbs and flows, but hey, if you're watching this, I really appreciate you, and you know, feel free to weigh in if you have any opinions or what, you know. I won't say no to encouragement or support, you know. I feel like a lot of the stuff that I do sometimes just gets like put out into the void and doesn't get much of a response. So if you have any feelings, like, please, you know, don't be afraid to reach out and leave a comment or something. Let me know that you're there. I see people watching the videos, and I appreciate that. That means a lot on its own. But you know, just because our comments aren't, you know, a sea of people, let me know what you're thinking. You know, I would love to have interactions with people who are viewing this. So anyway, this is the stuff that I think about while I'm by myself and I don't have Ton to goof around with. I love you guys very much. I'll see you on the next one.
Preston can play. Continue.